Welcome to Open Source Tonight. It's the channel where I talk about random crap and Linux. Okay, mostly Linux. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about some, I don't know, I guess it's an open source philosophy kind of video. So you probably have heard that the Department of Justice, or the DOJ in America, that's where I live, if you couldn't tell by the accent, that is where that the DOJ is wanting to tell Google, no, you got to change everything. And one of the things they want them to do, and I'm not trying to get into a discussion about whether they should do this or not, I'm just trying to talk about one of the potential effects that will affect us in the open source land, is Mozilla and Firefox is partially funded through Google giving them some cash. And the number, I don't remember it off the top of my head, it's a large sum of money in the millions. It will be at the bottom of the screen here, the exact number. But this huge amount, I think it's like 150 million a year or something like that. It's a huge number. This amount of money is to have Google be the default search engine. Well, the DOJ doesn't want them to do that because of potential antitrust issues and all that. Again, not trying to get into the antitrust issues here in any capacity. Just saying, if this happens, will Firefox lose a lot of funding? Yeah, it looks like we're going that way. If that does happen, is Firefox going to be around? Who knows? I want an open web to exist, and at this point, we are very heavily based on Chromium browsers. For those of you who don't know, the open source project that Chrome is based off of is called Chromium. And so Google Chrome is a little bit of special sauce on top of that, but for most intents and purposes, it's the same rendering engine and everything. So for all intents and purposes, if we go into a world where it's nothing but Chromium-based browsers, what that means is we could see potentially, in my fears, I think we could see a Internet Explorer kind of internet again, if you will. We already see a lot of websites and web applications that will come up and say, hey, we work best in Chrome. Right? You're already seeing that. So it's not that much of a step to get to the point where, especially if Firefox goes away, okay, folks, now we're just expecting you to use Chrome. OpenSourceTonight.com, any website I run like that, we're not going to do that. We're going to do everything as standards compliant as possible and hopefully work on a bunch of different web browsers and a bunch of different operating systems. The big limitation is like legalities and stuff of like video codecs and things like that. If you try to stream the video on some web browsers, we only use open source video codecs to keep our legalities covered and all that, and also to support open source. So if you are streaming the video on the website and it's not from YouTube, which we're increasingly moving away from altogether, it's got to be a system that supports AV1 video. If it doesn't do that, sorry, we're going to throw up a little error screen. Used to, we didn't even do that, but I decided that we should do that, so I built that in. But anyway, not trying to get into that sidebar or whatever. I think an open web is really important to the future of the internet. That's why that I have done things like have RSS on the website so you can get a list of the videos. That's the thing I haven't promoted yet. But these different standards like RSS, HTML5 videos, different things like this, where you can implement it on your website in any compliant web browser, which should be all of them, will work. But if you remember the old days of Internet Explorer, and I'm sure most of you do, I remember it as a kid, you would realistically, for a lot of stuff, have to use Internet Explorer. I remember there was a system that my school district used for reading and math, and you would go in there and you had to have ActiveX enabled on Internet Explorer. And if you didn't know how ActiveX works, it's literally embedding an exe that will run on that machine. It's very insecure, if you ask me, and thankfully we've moved away from it. But that kind of thing only really happened because of the dominance of Windows and because of the dominance of Internet Explorer on Windows, allowing that. I don't want us to get into a situation where that happens again, where one system controls everything. And we could argue right now, Chrome already controls way too much of the market, and Google Chromium and Chromium. Again, not trying to get into the antitrust thing, but at the end of the day, I think we have to agree that having one web browser with the huge market share that it has is probably not the best for all of us. So anyway, folks, let me know what your thoughts is, but I think that keeping Firefox around and other browsers other than the ones based off of Chromium like Brave and different things like that would be a great idea. Let me know your thoughts, everybody, and I hope to talk to you again very soon. Goodbye, everybody. And action.